Picture this right now, in this very moment. You already hold the power to turn your life's biggest struggles into your most meaningful victories. But how, you might ask today? We're going deep into the heart of Stoicism, an ancient philosophy that has helped people thrive through hardship and find calm amid chaos for centuries. Think back to the last time something tested your patience or shook your confidence. How did you handle it? Were you swept along by your immediate reaction? Or did you choose a response that reflected your deeper values and beliefs? This is exactly where Stoicism shines, guiding us to face life's challenges with courage, wisdom, and steadiness. Today we're exploring a powerful idea rooted in ancient wisdom, yet strikingly relevant to modern life: the practice of training your mind to respond instead of react. This isn't just about controlling your temper or staying cool under pressure. It's about cultivating a deep sense of awareness, a grounding in the present moment that lets you move through life's ups and downs with grace and intention. The Stoics, ancient thinkers known for their practical approach to living, had plenty to say about this. They believed that even though we can't control what happens to us, we do control how we interpret and respond to it. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what's within our power, encouraging detachment from outside circumstances and anchoring ourselves in our own reasoned choices. This Stoic wisdom is what can inspire us to pause, reflect, and choose a course of action that's deliberate and thoughtful rather than impulsive and reactive. But why does this matter so much? Think about how much of our stress, regret, and frustration comes from knee-jerk reactions to what other people say or do. Now imagine if instead you could stay calm, centered, and thoughtful, even when everything around you feels chaotic. This isn't only about improving your peace of mind. It's about becoming a more effective, compassionate, and resilient person, qualities that can transform not just your own life, but the lives of people around you. In this conversation, we'll look at strategies drawn from both modern psychology and Stoic philosophy to help you build this responsive mindset. We'll cover how to cultivate mindfulness, the importance of naming and expressing your emotions in healthy ways, how to keep the bigger picture in view, something the Stoics were especially skilled at, and we'll also spend time on the practical everyday moments where this matters most: conversations that go sideways, unexpected setbacks at work, the small irritations that pile up over a single afternoon. By the end, you'll have a set of tools to help you pause, assess, and respond thoughtfully to whatever life throws at you. So settle in, get comfortable, and let's take this journey together, learning to root ourselves in Stoic wisdom and in the power of our own minds, to choose our responses, transforming our experiences and relationships for the better. This is a longer, deeper exploration than usual, because this particular shift, the move from reacting to responding, touches nearly every part of a person's life, and it deserves the time to be properly understood, not just heard once and forgotten. In trying to understand what it really means to respond, instead of overreact, we step into territory where every thought and action is deliberate, echoing the deep teachings of Stoicism. The Stoics, those revered thinkers of ancient Greece and Rome, held views on life that apply remarkably well to our fast-paced modern world. They taught the value of mastering our emotions and reactions, stressing that true power lies in our ability to choose our response to any situation. So why is it so important to cultivate a response rather than a reflexive reaction? Picture yourself in a tense meeting or facing a personal setback. The default human tendency is often to react instinctively, driven by whatever emotion surges up in the moment. This kind of reaction, though natural, rarely serves us well. In the long run, it can escalate conflict, damage relationships, and lead to decisions we later regret. This is where Stoic wisdom proves valuable. The Stoics believed in living according to nature and reason, advocating for a life where every action is guided by virtue and rational thought. By embracing this philosophy, we learn to notice our first impulses, examine them with a clear mind, and choose a course of action aligned with our core values and long-term goals. Responding instead of reacting means pausing for a moment. When something triggers us, it means stepping back to observe not just the outside event, but also our own internal reaction to it. This reflective pause lets us weigh different outcomes and choose one that's reasoned, balanced, and most importantly, within our control. Practicing this Stoic approach doesn't mean suppressing your emotions or pretending they don't exist. Instead, you acknowledge them, understand where they come from, and then decide whether and how they should shape your actions. This approach lets you engage with the world in a way that preserves your inner peace and integrity, no matter what's happening around you. But the value of responding, instead of overreacting, goes beyond personal peace. It shapes the quality of your relationships, the effectiveness of your leadership, and your resilience in the face of hardship. When you respond thoughtfully, you show respect, understanding, and empathy for others' perspectives and experiences. building more meaningful and constructive connections. Let's slow down here for a moment because this idea deserves more than a passing mention. Think about the last argument you had with someone close to you. A partner, a parent, a close friend. Chances are it didn't start as a full-blown fight. It started small, a comment that landed wrong, a tone of voice that felt dismissive, a look that seemed to carry judgment, and in that tiny opening moment, before either of you had said anything truly damaging, there was a choice available, a fork in the road. One path led toward escalation, defensiveness, raised voices, words designed to wound rather than to communicate. The other path led toward understanding, toward a pause, toward the simple act of asking what's actually going on here before assuming the worst. Most people never even notice that fork exists. They're moving so fast through their emotional reactions that the choice point flies by unseen. This is precisely the skill Stoicism trains us to develop, learning to notice the fork before we've already sprinted down one path. Consider the story often told about Epictetus himself, a man who had been born into slavery and endured genuine physical suffering, including a permanently damaged leg. Despite this, he became one of the most influential teachers of his era precisely because he refused to let his external circumstances dictate his internal state. He taught his students that we are disturbed not by events themselves, but by the opinions we form about those events. Think about what that really means. It's not the rude comment from a coworker that ruins your afternoon. It's the story you tell yourself about that comment. They don't respect me. They think I'm incompetent. I'll never be taken seriously here. That spiral of interpretation. Not the comment itself is where your peace actually gets stolen from you. And once you see that clearly, you realize you have far more influence over your emotional state than you ever gave yourself credit for. Setting out on a journey to train the mind takes more than good intentions. It requires deliberate, sustained effort. Much like the practices the Stoics themselves followed, these ancient thinkers offer timeless insight that can anchor our modern effort to build a responsive rather than reactive mind. First, let's look at the power of self-awareness, a cornerstone of Stoic thought. The Stoics stress the value of introspection and understanding our own thoughts and motivations in our context. This means developing a sharp awareness of our mental and emotional states. When you're aware of your thoughts and feelings, you're far better equipped to manage them well. This heightened self-awareness helps you catch the early signs of an emotional reaction, giving you the crucial first step toward choosing a more reasoned response. Self-awareness sounds simple in theory, but in practice most of us are strangers to our own inner workings. We can tell you in detail what upset a friend or a colleague last week, but ask us to explain exactly what physical sensation shows up in our own body the instant before we snap at someone, and most of us draw a blank. This is worth practicing deliberately. The next time you feel that first spark of irritation, pause and actually notice where it lives in your body. Maybe it's a tightening in your chest. Maybe it's heat rising in your face. Maybe your jaw clenches without you even choosing it. This is valuable information because your body often signals an emotional reaction before your conscious mind has even caught up with what's happening. Learning to read these early signals gives you a head start. It's like having a warning light on a dashboard that tells you to slow down before you've already driven off the road. Next, let's explore the practice of pausing, a simple yet powerful strategy. Marcus Aurelius, a Stoic emperor, often spoke of the space between what happens to us and how we respond, the space where we actually have the power to choose our actions. By building the habit of pausing, even for just a few seconds, we give ourselves the chance to step back from our immediate impulses. This pause might be filled with a deep breath, a moment of reflection, or brief meditation. It's in this space that we can check in with our inner Stoic, asking what virtue calls for right now and what response fits our best self. Let's talk about the mechanics of the pause itself, because knowing you should pause and actually managing to do it in a heated moment are two very different skills. One method that works well is counting your breath slowly to a count of 4. As you inhale, hold for a count of 4. Then exhale for a count of 6, making the exhale longer than the inhale signals to your nervous system that the immediate danger, however small, has passed, and it's safe to settle. This isn't mysticism, it's basic physiology. The parasympathetic nervous system, the part responsible for calming us down, gets activated more strongly by long, slow exhales than by short, shallow breaths. So the next time you feel a reaction building, instead of speaking immediately, try taking just 3 of these breaths before you say a single word. You'll be amazed how often the urgent, overwhelming need to respond right this second simply dissolves once you've given your body those few seconds to settle. Another key strategy is reframing our perspective, a technique Stoics use to stay steady through hardship. This means consciously choosing to view a situation from a different angle, one that lowers its emotional charge and opens up alternative ways to engage with it. For example, instead of seeing a difficult work situation as a threat, you might reframe it as a chance to grow and show resilience by shifting our narrative. We change our emotional response and open up new possibilities for action. Reframing takes practice, because our default mode of thinking tends to run in old familiar grooves, like a river that has carved the same path through rock for years. Imagine you've just been passed over for a promotion you worked hard for. The immediate story your mind wants to tell is one of unfairness, of being overlooked, of not being valued, and there may be truth in some of that, but sitting inside that story alone for days or weeks accomplishes nothing except draining your energy and souring your outlook. A Stoic reframe doesn't deny the disappointment. It sits alongside it and asks a second question. What can this situation teach me about my skills, my communication, my visibility within the organization? Is there a conversation I need to have that I've been avoiding? Is there a gap in my experience? Worth addressing. This isn't about pretending the setback doesn't sting. It's about refusing to let the sting be the only lens you look through. Moreover, the Stoics were advocates of focusing on what we can control and letting go of what we cannot. In practicing this principle, we learn to invest our energy wisely, responding actively to our own thoughts and actions, while accepting external events as they unfold. This doesn't mean being passive or indifferent. Rather, it's about recognizing where our power truly lies and choosing to act there with intention and integrity. This distinction between what's ours to control and what isn't sounds almost obvious when you first hear it. Of course, we can't control the weather or the economy or how a stranger on the internet feels about us, but in daily life, we constantly forget this and pour enormous energy into things entirely outside our hands. We rehearse arguments with people who aren't even in the room. We replay decisions we can no longer change. We worry about outcomes that depend on dozens of variables, none of which we can touch. A useful exercise here is to take a difficult situation you're facing right now and physically draw 2 columns on a piece of paper. On one side, write everything about the situation that is genuinely within your control: your effort, your attitude, your preparation, your honesty, your next action. On the other side, write everything that isn't: the other person's mood, the final decision of a committee, the state of the market, whatever it may be. Once you see it laid out in black and white, something shifts. You start to notice how much of your worry has been spent on the second column, and how little attention you've given the first. This simple exercise, done regularly, retrains the mind over time to naturally sort experience into these 2 categories. Almost automatically, finally, consistent reflection and adjustment are key to training the mind. The Stoics engaged in daily self-examination, assessing their actions and progress toward virtue. Similarly, we can end our day by reflecting on our responses, celebrating our successes, and choosing thoughtful actions, and learning from the times we fell back into reactivity. This ongoing process of self-assessment and improvement fosters a responsive mindset and cultivates the wisdom and balance that Stoicism so highly values. Think of this evening review almost like a coach reviewing game footage after a match, not to criticize but to improve. You might ask yourself 3 simple questions before sleep each night. Where did I respond well today? Where did I slip back into old reactive patterns? And what is one thing I can try differently tomorrow? This doesn't need to take more than a few minutes, but the cumulative effect over weeks and months is substantial. You begin to notice patterns you didn't see before. Maybe you always react poorly when you're hungry or tired. Maybe certain people or certain topics reliably trigger you. Maybe mornings are harder for you than evenings. Once you can name these patterns, you can plan around them the way a sailor studies the winds and currents of a particular stretch of ocean before setting out. By integrating these strategies into our daily lives, we not only honor the legacy of the Stoics, but also empower ourselves to live with greater purpose, calm, and effectiveness. Through persistent practice, we transform our minds, guiding them toward responses that reflect our deepest values and aspirations. Now let's turn to mindfulness itself, because it deserves a closer look. Mindfulness at its core is about cultivating a deep awareness of the present moment. It's about observing our thoughts, emotions, and sensations without judgment, allowing us to gain insights into their nature and influence. By practicing mindfulness, we align with the Stoic endeavor to live with awareness and intention, anchoring ourselves firmly in the now, the only time when we truly have the power to act. One practical way to cultivate mindfulness is through focused attention exercises, such as breath meditation. By simply observing our breath, noticing each inhale and exhale, we develop the ability to maintain attention and return it to our point of focus when it wanders. This practice is not just about relaxation, it's a training ground for the mind, enhancing our ability to concentrate and remain present amid life's distractions and challenges. You don't need incense or a special cushion or 20 minutes of uninterrupted silence to begin. Even 2 or 3 minutes sitting quietly and simply counting 10 breaths while noticing when your attention drifts and gently bringing it back is enough to start building this muscle. The goal isn't to stop your thoughts entirely. That's an unrealistic expectation that leaves most beginners feeling like they've failed. The goal is simply to notice when you've drifted and return without frustration. Each return is itself the exercise, not a sign that you're doing it wrong. Another key practice is mindful observation, which can be applied to any daily activity, turning it into an opportunity for mindfulness. Whether you're eating, walking, or even performing mundane tasks, you can practice being fully engaged with the activity, observing every aspect with curiosity and openness. This not only enriches the experience itself, but also strengthens your ability to remain focused and responsive in various situations. Think about how often you eat a meal while scrolling through your phone, barely tasting what's in front of you, or how often you walk somewhere completely absorbed in your own head, arriving at your destination with no memory of the actual walk. Try this instead the next time you eat something simple. Pause before the first bite and really look at the food. Notice its color, its texture as you chew. Notice the flavors changing. This sounds almost trivial, but it's training the same mental muscle that later lets you notice a rising emotion before it takes over completely, because the skill in both cases is identical. Bringing your attention fully into the present, rather than letting it run on autopilot. Body scan meditation is another powerful mindfulness technique that fosters body awareness and presence. By attentively scanning through different parts of the body, we not only cultivate a greater connection with our physical selves, but also learn to recognize and release stored tensions and emotions. This practice echoes the Stoic reflection on the nature of bodily experiences and the importance of not allowing them to unduly influence our rational minds. A simple version of this you can try tonight before sleep. Lie down and, starting at your feet, slowly bring your attention up through your body, ankles, calves, knees, thighs, simply noticing without trying to change anything where you're holding tension, where you feel relaxed by the time you reach the top of your head. Many people find they've naturally released tension they didn't even realize they were carrying, and this practice of simply noticing without judging is precisely the same skill you'll use later when noticing an emotional reaction rising in a difficult conversation. Incorporating mindfulness into our interactions with others can also transform our relationships and communication. By being fully present with others, listening attentively, and observing without judgment, we foster deeper understanding and connection. This practice aligns with the Stoic value of empathy and the recognition that others too are rational beings navigating their own challenges and experiences. Think about the last time someone was truly fully present with you, listening without already composing their reply in their head, without glancing at their phone, without finishing your sentences. For you, it's a rare and genuinely striking experience. And you can offer that same experience to the people in your life simply by practicing this kind of attentive, undivided listening. The next time someone speaks to you, resist the urge to plan your response while they're still talking. Just listen fully, then pause before you reply. You'll likely find your responses become more thoughtful and the other person feels genuinely heard, which in itself diffuses a huge amount of potential conflict before it even begins. By embracing these mindfulness practices, we walk a path tread by the Stoics, one that leads to greater clarity, tranquility, and effectiveness in our actions. As we cultivate a mindful presence, we equip ourselves with the tools to respond to life's inevitable challenges with grace, wisdom, and composure, embodying the best of what it means to live a Stoic-inspired life. Now, let's transition our focus toward the pragmatic application of our newfound mindfulness and Stoic insights, aiming to cultivate a lifestyle where responding thoughtfully overshadows reactive impulses. This journey to implementing a response over reaction is not merely about suppressing natural reflexes. Rather, it's about enriching our engagement with life, echoing the Stoic virtue of living with deliberate intention and rationality. To embody the principles we've discussed, it's crucial to establish daily practices that reinforce the art of responding. Imagine you're faced with a challenging situation, perhaps a disagreement at work or an unforeseen setback. The immediate impulse might be to react emotionally, driven by frustration or disappointment. Yet this is the moment to harness our Stoic-inspired training, to pause and consider the broader perspective, asking ourselves, what would a Stoic philosopher do? This question isn't a call for emotional suppression. Instead, it's an invitation to engage our rational mind, to evaluate the situation dispassionately and identify constructive responses. Here, we're not eliminating emotions but channeling them productively, using reason to navigate through them. It's about acknowledging our feelings, understanding their triggers, and then with clarity and calm, deciding the best course of action that aligns with our values and objectives. Let's walk through a fuller example because abstract principles land much better when grounded in something concrete. Imagine you receive a sharply worded email from a client accusing you of missing a deadline that in reality you delivered on time. Your first instinct might be to fire back an equally sharp reply, defending yourself immediately. Maybe even copying your manager to prove you're in the right. This is the reactive path, and while it might feel satisfying for about 30 seconds, it often escalates the situation and can permanently damage a working relationship. The Stoic-inspired alternative looks different. First, you pause. You don't reply within the first 5 minutes. You let the initial jolt of indignation pass through you. Second, you ask, what's actually within my control here? I can't control the client's mistaken belief or their tone. I can control my own response, the facts I present, and the tone I choose to use. Third, you consider the bigger picture. Is this relationship valuable? Is there a chance the client is simply overwhelmed and lashing out under their own pressure? Fourth, you draft a calm, factual reply, one that clarifies the timeline, without attacking. Notice how differently this plays out from the reactive version. The outcome is far more likely to preserve the relationship and your own peace of mind. And interestingly, it usually takes less time and energy than staying angry about it for the rest of the day. Would have in practical terms. This could mean taking a brief walk to clear your mind before responding to a provocative email, or it might involve a deeper analysis of what's truly upsetting you in a conflict, seeking the underlying issues, rather than reacting to surface irritants. Each time you choose to respond rather than react, you're reinforcing a pattern of thoughtful engagement with life's challenges, fostering resilience and cultivating a more profound sense of peace and satisfaction. Moreover, integrating this approach into your daily routines amplifies its impact. Begin your day with a reflection on your intentions, reminding yourself of your commitment to respond thoughtfully across various contexts. Engage in regular journaling to reflect on your responses, celebrate your successes, and identify areas for growth. And importantly, embrace a mindset of continuous learning and adaptation, recognizing that each day offers fresh opportunities to practice and deepen your mastery of response over reaction. Let's talk about journaling a little more specifically, because many people hear the word and imagine something elaborate or time-consuming that isn't necessary here. A Stoic-inspired journal can be remarkably simple. Each morning, write down one sentence about the kind of person you want to be that day: patient, honest, attentive, whatever quality feels most relevant. Then each evening, write 2 or 3 sentences about how the day actually went. Where did you live up to that intention? Where did you fall short over time? Flipping back through even a few weeks of these short entries reveals patterns that are almost invisible day to day. You might notice that you're consistently more patient on days you've slept well, or that you're far more reactive after skipping lunch. This kind of self-knowledge is genuinely valuable because it turns vague self-improvement into something concrete and specific. You're no longer just trying to be calmer in general. You're addressing the actual conditions that make calmness harder or easier for you specifically. By committing to this path, you're not just adopting a strategy for stress reduction or conflict management. You're embracing a way of life that reflects the Stoic pursuit of virtue and wisdom. You're choosing to live with intentionality, aligning your actions with your highest ideals, and in doing so, you're contributing to a more reasoned, compassionate, and responsive world. The journey from reaction to response is transformative, beckoning us toward a deeper engagement with our inner selves and the external world. It's a path that the Stoics walked with diligence and dedication, and now with their wisdom guiding us, we too can aspire to navigate life's vicissitudes with grace, equanimity, and rationality, embodying the true spirit of Stoicism in our modern era. It's worth pausing here to address something honestly. This path isn't always smooth. There will be days when, despite everything you know, despite every strategy we've discussed, you still snap at someone, you still fire off the angry message, you still let frustration get the better of you. And here's something important: the Stoics themselves never claimed to be perfect. Marcus Aurelius wrote his private reflections precisely because he struggled with these same impulses even as Emperor of Rome, with more resources and more reason to feel entitled to his irritation than almost anyone in history. He still had to remind himself daily to be patient with difficult people, to not let others' behavior determine his own state of mind. If a Roman emperor needed daily practice to manage his reactions, then the rest of us shouldn't expect to master this after reading one article or watching one video. The goal was never perfection. The goal is progress each time you catch yourself reacting instead of responding, and you notice it even after the fact that noticing itself is valuable. It's evidence that your awareness is growing, even if your behavior hasn't fully caught up yet. And over time, as you keep practicing, the gap between noticing and actually changing your behavior in the moment gets smaller and smaller. The essence of our exploration is not just about managing our reactions in isolation, but about integrating a responsive, thoughtful approach into the fabric of our lives by embracing the principles of Stoicism, focusing on what's within our control, acting with reason and striving for virtue. We empower ourselves to navigate life's challenges with greater equanimity and purpose. This Stoic-inspired path encourages us to view every moment as an opportunity to practice our commitment to response over reaction, whether we're faced with daily irritations, significant setbacks, or pivotal decisions. Each situation presents a chance to embody the Stoic virtues of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. By consistently choosing to respond thoughtfully, we not only enhance our own well-being, but also contribute positively to the lives of those around us. Think about the ripple effect of this practice for a moment. When you respond calmly to someone who is upset, you're not just managing your own emotional state, you're often changing the entire trajectory of the interaction. Anger tends to escalate anger. A raised voice invites a raised voice, but calm has a strange contagious quality too. When you meet frustration with steadiness, the other person frequently finds their own intensity dropping, simply because there's nothing for it to feed on. This doesn't work every single time. Some people are committed to conflict regardless of how you show up, but far more often than you might expect, your own steadiness becomes a kind of gift to the room, a stabilizing presence that others unconsciously calibrate themselves against. This is part of why the Stoic emphasis on self-mastery was never really a selfish pursuit. Even though it's centered on your own inner state, it has outward effects that ripple through every relationship you touch. Remember, the journey toward mastering response over reaction is ongoing, a process of continual learning and growth. Like the Stoics, we must embrace the discipline of self-reflection, regularly assessing our progress and adjusting our course as needed. This commitment to personal growth not only brings us closer to our ideal selves, but also resonates outward, influencing our relationships, communities, and the broader tapestry of our interconnected lives. Before we close, let's bring together the practical tools we've covered today so you can actually put them to use, starting with the very next moment that tests you. First, notice the early physical signs of a reaction rising in your body. Second, take a few slow breaths with a longer exhale than inhale to settle your nervous system. Third, ask yourself, what is actually within my control in this situation? Fourth, consider reframing the situation. Is there another angle, another lesson, another opportunity hidden inside this difficulty? Fifth, if the moment allows, step back briefly through a short walk, a pause before replying, or simply a few seconds of silence. And sixth, at the end of the day, take a few minutes to honestly reflect on how you handled the challenges that came your way, not to judge yourself harshly, but to learn and adjust for tomorrow. These 6 steps, woven into your daily life over weeks and months, are what slowly transform a reactive default into a responsive one as we reach the end of this journey together. Remember, every moment is a choice. A chance to embody the calm, the resilience, and the wisdom of Stoicism in the tapestry of life. Your responses are threads of your character woven with intention and purpose. Now, as we part ways, I invite you to continue your exploration. Look to the screen for suggested videos that delve deeper into the art of living wisely and well. Thank you for joining us at Stoic Journal, for embracing the path of mindful response over reactive impulse. May your journey forward be enriched with clarity, virtue, and peace.